Why should you support Waycross Pride? Why do we have a pride at all? Is pride even needed these days or necessary? Well, I was sitting down to think about that the other day, and I was thinking about why I started Waycross Pride. And I started Waycross Pride for a couple reasons. One, because we didn't have one. We had a pride in a neighboring county, in a neighboring part of the state, but we didn't really have one here in Waycross, Georgia. And when you look around, you don't see a lot of representation. You don't see a lot of visibility for the LGBTQ plus community. And so I was trying to think about, and I apologize if I ramble a little bit, but I was trying to think about why should somebody join or partner with Waycross Pride? And I was trying to think about why I even got involved in advocacy. And when I think about it, I kind of came from probably some pretty bad or pretty dark places. I was coming out of religion, and I was getting involved with trying to discover myself, trying to live authentically, and in the process, I was kind of angry. I think a lot of us get involved with pride or come to pride, and we have a fair amount of trauma. We have a fair amount of things from our past, maybe some mental health issues. We all just have things that we're working through in our life. I think everyone kind of has that. I think more so those of us who are advocates and allies, those of us that are part of the LGBTQ plus community. There's a lot of unique challenges that we have that, maybe other cultural groups, maybe some of those we share, but some that are unique just to us. I know that we have a story, and I think that as through the years, I have grown, and I've come to see that the best way to approach pride and the best way to grow a pride organization is through the power of the story. Stories are magical and stories are powerful, and I can prove that to you in a couple different ways. But first, why do people come to pride, or why do people support pride? And there's a variety of different reasons. Some people come looking for friends, looking for community, and essentially they're lonely. And when they find what they're looking for, when they find community, when they find a friend group, when they find maybe a partner, maybe that's who they're looking for, or partners, when they find that and they find fulfillment in that, oftentimes the advocacy and the relationship with pride dims, and they're involved in their relationships, in their friendships, in their community that they've found. Not a bad reason, just a reason. Oftentimes people come because they see the state of our world, and they come in support of pride for the political reasons. And the thing with political reasons is oftentimes the issues that we face as just people, as a country, as part of this whole world, when you look at the politics, it becomes overwhelming. When you start with something small, it grows and grows and grows, and then suddenly you are overwhelmed by how large all of the different issues and all the different details really become, because every law has both positives and negatives, and every law that goes into effect it benefits someone and it has consequences for others. And so every law, every law has people that are for it and people who are against it. And when you come for political reasons alone, while you have good intentions, really ultimately you're gonna oftentimes get overwhelmed, and your enthusiasm is going to fade because the issues are so large, and the amount of change that you can contribute to is quite small in the scope of things. There's so much change that needs to happen, and the amount that you can contribute is so small. Together we get it all done, but often I like to leave most of the politics to the lobbyists, to the people in the know, and the people that's their job. They lobby on behalf of us. And so I think that there are political organizations that are better suited for the purposes of dealing with the politics. And I think as a Pride organization, we just get behind them. We get involved with events that they have, but we don't make that our sole goal, because we get overwhelmed and our enthusiasm fades. I think that a lot of people get involved. Maybe they are looking for an enemy. And I know that may sound kind of harsh. Maybe I am, maybe I should just at you next time. It's not a popular thing to look at the darker aspects of humanity, but oftentimes we're looking for an enemy. We pit ourselves against our community. We go looking for a fight or feeling like we need to fight. And that's not how you build a Pride organization, or you should build a Pride organization, because we're about building allies, not building enemies. And so oftentimes you don't go looking for enemies. You shouldn't be looking for a fight in that regard. You should be looking to build allies. And so I think that oftentimes when we get involved looking for a fight or looking for enemies, we end up getting even more isolated, even more disenfranchised. We can only fight, and our enthusiasm will only drive us so far. And so when we lose that enthusiasm, or maybe we find out that people who we thought were our enemies are really our friends, people who we thought were so different from us, we find are more similar to us, and we lose in the long run that ability to just continue fighting. Fighting can be exhausting, and we wear out really fast, and pride kind of fades. So those are some of the different instances of why people support Pride, and I'm sure there's other reasons as well. But why I think you should support Pride is because we want you to tell your story. And I think that Pride is a storytelling organization, and I think that is how we can affect the most change, is by telling our stories. And I think stories are more powerful, and I think we can have more political influence through telling our story. I think we can have more religious influence, and find more religious allies by telling our story. We can find more allies in general by telling our story, because they'll understand us. Stories are magical and they are powerful. And so I can think of in politics, Adolf Hitler, he told a story to the people of his day about the Jews, and about he told a bad story, and the bad story got people behind him to follow him into the chaos of World War II. Today, our president is oftentimes on his campaign trail, he was telling a story, and he was echoing a story, excuse me, a story that isn't true, isn't usually true, maybe I should say that. And the story that they were telling was of who was going to use the bathroom. This person in their story was a pedophile, or was a pervert, or the character of their story had dark and nefarious motives and intentions, and was dressing up as someone who he was not, in order to use a restroom so that he could be a predator on children, and that or on young people. And so that was the story, that was the narrative that they were telling. But that isn't, if we tell our story, that's not our story. We're just our trans and intersex, our fluid, anyone who doesn't fit within the binary, those people are just trying to use a restroom to relieve themselves. And when we tell our story, we can tell the feelings that we have as people that don't really fit within the binary, and what that is like for us. When we tell our story to enough people, they begin to understand from our perspective what's really going on. And so people are making laws out there and voting for laws and voting for changes in things, and they're doing so based on the stories that they've heard. A popular story from the previous campaign was they're eating the animals, and whether that was true or false or whatever isn't really my concern. My concern was that it was powerful. People were telling this story, and it was causing people to change their views and their viewpoints on immigrants and immigration, and that's how laws were being then passed and pushed through based on that story. And so the story is powerful in politics, and it informs and tells people what they should care about, what they should advocate for, and what they should believe in, and what they should vote for. And so it's powerful, and it is magical in that sense. Stories are also magical and powerful in religion, whether you're Islamic or Christian or any other religion. Oftentimes you have a holy book or holy books, and they're filled with stories, and whether those stories are true or false or isn't really my point and really isn't my consideration. It's the fact that those stories are powerful. Those stories are magical. They inform and tell people what they should believe, what they should care about, how they should act, and oftentimes they create systems of morality, and they create a lifestyle based on the stories that they hear and that they're told and that they believe. And so the power of the story informs both religion and politics. Those are two big things. And I think that within Pride, if we tell our story and we approach Pride as being as a way to share our story and a way to bring visibility to our story can be both magical and powerful, and it can inform people on what to believe, and it can inform people on how to vote, and it can inform people on how to change and how to become allies with us and not enemies of us. And so it's the stories that they believe about us, whether they're true or false. And we don't want someone else telling our story. We don't need a president on a campaign trail telling our story. We need to tell our story. We need to be the ones telling our story, because we're going to tell our story from our perspective, and we're going to tell our story from what our experience is. It's going to inform our experiences, and our experiences should inform the truth or in the reality of what is really going on in the world with us. And so that our story is our biggest advocate. Our story is magical and powerful. And I think I've said that numerous times, and I believe that's why you should support Waycross Pride, because we are in the business of telling your story. We're in the business of telling this community our story, and telling it from the perspective of our experiences and our beliefs, and based on who we are as people. When I can then back it up with my character, with my faith, with my with kindness and warmth and love, compassion, empathy, with all these good things, we can back up our story. With our character and our actions, we can show the reality of what our story is, and we can actually be part of their story. And so thank you for listening to me. Like I said, it may be a little bit of a ramble, but this is where Waycross Pride is going. Right now, we don't have we talk about painting our town rainbow. It's because we don't have a lot of visibility, and there's not a lot of places in June, in Pride Month, that will fly a rainbow flag. Not yet, anyways. And I think it's because they haven't heard our story, and they don't know who we are. And the stories that they have heard are that we are, we're bad for this community, for instance, or the stories that they've heard is we're going to hell, or we're bad for their religion. And so the stories that they're hearing louder, and they're hearing them so loud that there's not a lot of visibility, and they're not even hearing our story because we're not telling it. So we need to tell our story, and we need to tell people who we are, and let them and be just a little more visible, and open up a little bit more, because when you don't see rainbows in June, you can imagine that when you don't see displays of rainbows, you can imagine that public displays of affection might be dangerous. And so we need to change our visibility, and we need to change the story and change the narrative. We need it to reflect the truth of who we are as people and what we're about. We're family people. We're oriented, family oriented, and we're just here trying to work and live and eat and play just like everybody else. And there may be things that are different about us, things that are unique about us. We may look differently, or we may not follow the binary, but people don't know what that means. We might use different pronouns, or there might just be different biological things about us. We might be suffering from certain dysphorias, or we may be dealing with our trauma. We may have, had really bad things happen to us. We may have had to hide, or felt like we had to hide for so long because it may not have been safe for us to be who we are, or we may have been told that we can't be who we are. There's all kinds of things about us that people need to know and understand. And when they understand those things and they know those things about us, I think that our community will begin to change, and that, through the power of our stories, and that this will be a better place, a better community for us, and that as through sharing our stories, that we're actually helping them become better people. We're helping them become allies, and we're helping them to just act better towards other LGBTQ plus people. And so thank you for considering and supporting Waycross Pride. And we look forward to you telling us your story.